Fibonacci sequence implementation, let us do some sample executions of this. Let us look at how much time this function takes to give us an output. Fine. So how do I calculate time required? Import time. When I say import time, I take a statement here. T1 is equal to time dot time, and let me call a Fibonacci for, let me include some uh, value is equal to, or let's say x is equal to Fibonacci of, let us do one thing, let us calculate the time required to calculate Fibonacci of number 5, and T2 is equal to, so that's where you start seeing the difference. So I need to just get this in values. T2 minus T1. Okay. So now if I execute this, it's almost 0.0, right? If I from 15, if I may take it to say 10, still 0, right? And from 10, if I make it to 50, and if I execute this, I'm calculating Fibonacci of 50th sequence in Fibonacci series. It's taking too much of time. If you can still see that it is still executing for 50. Can you guess reason for such a high amount of time? It's still executing. So before we make a guess on why this execution time is so high, let us discuss the complexity of calculating Fibonacci sequence. Can you make a good guess what should be complexity of calculating a Fibonacci number for n? Can you guess? Just put your response in chat window. The program is still executing. So it was able to calculate Fibonacci of 5, it was able to calculate Fibonacci of 10, but when I entered 50, it almost stopped. I'm not getting any answer here. I don't know why it's taking too much of time. So I start getting responses saying n square, anything else? So Fibonacci sequence. So if I want with n, 7, so I need to keep on adding each previous element till I reach to the 1. So how many additions I actually do? The program is still taking a lot of time. It's not even able to get the answer for 50. It's taking too much time for 50. Do you think the program which executed for 5 and 10, it's taking almost a minute, more than a minute to get an output for this? So let me break this and let me reduce the input to half of that, 25. And now if I execute this, okay, it's almost taking 0.03. From 25, if I make it to 30, 0.4. Look at the difference from 0.03 to 0.4. From 30, I'll make it to 35. Now it's almost taking more than 1. Just see the difference. For 30, it took 0.4. For 35, it is taking 4.8 seconds. Which sort of complexity will degrade the performance so worse? Change in input is very small here from 30 to 35, but increase in time is, look at the increase in time from 0.4 to 4 seconds. Which complexity will force such kind of worst performance? Can you guess? Remember, the complexity of Fibonacci series is O of n. It can't be better than O of n. The best complexity, see, if I want Fibonacci at 35, you need to add, like, you need to add for just n minus 1 additions. Technically speaking, it is n minus 1 additions. It could be either 2n additions or 2 into n minus 1. It depends upon what sort of analysis we do. But here, I'm not getting the output of my program in that order. Do you think that whatever the time I'm getting is of O of n? No. Whatever the performance, the time here you are getting, it is of worst kind of complexity, which is O of 2 to the power of n. That's the complexity you're getting for this current program. What is O of 2 to the power of n? Exponential, the worst kind of complexity. So by program wise, it looks very beautiful. 2 lines of code, yes, output getting very small program and that. But when you execute for real time outputs, you get a worse kind of performance, right? So how do I optimize it? So before I optimize it or before I go for further calls, let me trace a recursion calls, right? So we want to optimize this. When I want to say optimize this, can I optimize something here? I need to, whatever optimization I need to do it in line number 4 to 8. So before I go for optimization, I need to analyze the recursion tree. By looking at the recursion tree, I can make a guess if something can be optimized or not. So let us generate a recursion tree for this. So to generate a recursion tree for this, we will add the recursion tree visualizer. Okay, so for that, we import my recursion visualizer. Okay, this is the code, and what I do is I add decorator here. So this decorator takes a dictionary node parameters. Okay, then once I have done that, what I need to do is wherever I call this, I need to call them as keyword based argument. So I'll just say n. Let us keep n as a keyword based argument. So I'll say n is equal to n minus 1. Fibonacci n is equal to n minus 2. That's it. And here, whenever you call that method, you call it with n is equal to 5. So now I'm once again coming back to n is equal to 5, right? So given this, once I print time, I need to get the GIF of that. So now, if I execute this, I'll be getting a recursion tree for this. So it's generating the frames. Yes. So now I can show you, once the frames are generated, I can show you. Okay. Writing GIFs. It's still writing GIFs. So once it is done, we can look at the recursion tree for it. Okay, so now I have the GIF saved. Let me show you the recursion tree. So here I'll share my screen. Okay, so what is that? The output I would be getting is inside a file out.gif. So now if you check this GIF, so that's how the recursion starts. It starts with fib of n is equal to 5. That calls n is equal to 4, n is equal to 3, then 3 will call n is equal to 2. 2 will call n is equal to 1 and n is equal to 0. N is equal to 1 and 0 are base cases. So the function call returns and this now it calls. Then it calls this. Then n is equal to 2. Then 0. Then n is equal to 3. So that's how the recursion is working. With a delay of 2 seconds, I've generated GIF. So that's the recursion tree for the program for n is equal to 5. Okay, so that's how the recursion tree will look for this. What I want is I want you to analyze this recursion tree and tell me what we are doing multiple times. What is something that we are calling multiple times, we are calculating multiple times, which we could have only done once. So this is n is equal to 5. Do you want me to show what is recursion tree for n is equal to 6? It would be far more different. So this is n is equal to 5, right? Let me do it for n is equal to 6 as well. Before I do that, I will save this program first. Okay, so I have created a copies of them, and now let me do it for n is equal to, from 5 I'll make it 6, right? If I make it n is equal to 6, and then further if I run this, okay, is execution done? Till it is writing JS. Okay, so what I can see is response. We are calling function for same values again and again. Yes, that's exactly what we are doing. So once we have called a function, if I have called Fibonacci of 3, then is there any point calling the same function again if we have already calculated? So if we can optimize that, then we are saying lot of computations. So okay, so this is done. Now I'll show what is status with the n is equal to 6. So you will see that you can once again see as the number increases, number of redundant recursion calls are far more higher. That's why you are taking too much of time. Okay, so now you will once again calculate. So if you look at this n is equal to 2, you are calling this almost 3 to 4 times. Here is one you have called, here is once you have called. So once again, say whatever the n is equal to 3 is there, the entire tree is once again repeated, the recursion trees. So this will call n is equal to 2, and that will further call n is equal to 4. So look at this. This entire 3 is once n is equal to 4 is once again computed here. Is there any need for to do that? No. If you can optimize this, yes, you will bring down the complexity from n is equal O of 2 to the power of n to the O of n. And the process of doing that is called as memoization. Okay. So this is n is equal to 6. Imagine if I run it for n is equal to 30, you will find 2 to the power of 35. That's the recursion tree. I even can't fit it in this tree. Okay. I hope you got the point what I'm trying to say. Okay. So have you understood? Before I move further, I want to make sure whether you understood this or not. Have you understood what we are trying to solve? What is the major problem in this recursive code? Code is fine, it looks fine, but it is taking a lot of time. I want to minimize that. Okay. So now how do I minimize? See, every time I am calling this method again and again, I should not call it. So if I find somewhere that for Fibonacci of say 4 is already calculated, then I need not calculate the recursion stack again and again. So for that, what we will do? Let us check for that. Fine. So whatever I want to do that optimization, I'll have to do in this highlighted block of code. And what we're going to do is called as memoization. So in a nutshell, what is memoization? Avoid calling a function in a recursion train again and again if the function was already called with same number of arguments, that if some sub problem was once solved, don't solve that sub problem again and again. Solve it once, store the result somewhere in a table or somewhere in a storage, and every time you want to call the function again, instead of calling that, just retrieve the previously computed result of that call of that specific recursion subtree or recursion call of that, right? So how do I do that? Can you have any logic? See, now every time I'm calling Fibonacci of n, I will create a one-dimensional array which will store the value of Fibonacci of 1, Fibonacci of 2, Fib of 3, Fib of 4, and Fib of 5. For example, if you look at this, so every time I call Fib of n, see here I have computed n, I will store this result into one array. I have computed result for this, I will store it in one. Fibonacci of 2, I will store it in array. Fibonacci of 3, I will store it in array. So here at this stage, when it calls fib of n is equal to 3, already I have stored that in an array. So now what I'll do, I'll not get this all further subtrace. I will directly get the result from previously stored and computed value for fib of n is equal to 3. So I need to look at these values. N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So apart from that, I do not find any other values, right? Do you find n is equal to 7, n is equal to -1, n is equal to -8? No. Or n is equal to 10? No. You will only find if I call function with n is equal to 6, the maximum values you will store is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you need an array of size n, right? That's what you need, array of size n. Now, since I have 0 here, how many arrays you need? N plus 1. You need a temporary array of size n plus 1 where you can store the result of the recursion calls. Okay. So how do I create array of size n plus 1? So let us call it as memoization underscore array. And whenever I want array in Python, what do I prefer? What do I prefer when in Python, whenever I want the array? I want to prefer what I do in Python. I want a array. What should I take? Dictionary, set, tuple, what? List. Yes. We will always take it as a list. So now I want this list to be of size n plus 1. How do I do? Should I say 5? How do I define an array of size 5? I want to quickly create an array of size 5. Do you know a shortcut to quickly create array of size 5, array of 5, 7? Okay, let me show you that for time being here. So I'm using IPython. Yes, yeah, Akash has an answer, but still let me show that. If I have a simple list, for example, I'll say L1 is equal to, okay, if I say 1, what is this? L1 now contains 1. I want to repeat it. So if I do L2 is equal to L1 into 5, what I get? I won't get 1 into 5 is equal to 5. What I get? I quickly extend this array to of size n. Just multiply it by some element, it will extend that. So whatever you write within that, it becomes that. I hope this is clear. This is a quick Python syntax to create array of that size. Okay. So by default, I will store -1 and then I will create n plus 1 copies of that array, so that I'll have a memoization array of total n minus 0 to n. So in short, it is n plus 1 values. Okay. So I have creating that. Now every time I call this base case and everything. So see, I think I need not do any memoization for this because it is almost a quick operation. N is less than or is equal to 1. Okay, so once I computed it, I did not, there is no recursion here anything. So I will not memoize it for n is equal to n is equal to 1 or less than 1. I will only do memoization for this. So whenever I enter into else, I'll first check if from memoization array of n, if it is equal to -1, which means that I have not yet calculated any value for this n and result is still uncomputed. It's not yet computed. So what I need to do? I need to call the recursion. Okay. And when I want to calculate it for recursion, what I'll do is, so return value is equal to, I'll first calculate this value. I'll call the recursion and I will store this value in this array now. So earlier it was -1 means you have not yet called it. But now you have called whatever the return value which you get, it has to be now stored in this array. Right? And then return the return value. So next time, if I get the call for same code once again, if I get the call for same code again, this will no longer be -1, right? This will no longer be -1. So I'll be entering into else block. So if I enter into else, what should I do? This is not -1. It means that I have already computed value for this n. What should I do here? Directly return the value. Don't call any recursion stack. Directly return this value. It means that you have already computed that. If it is not -1, you have already computed. Directly return the value. Okay, got this? So now, since I have done this, let us check the values. So for time being, I'll comment it out and I'll create some copies of, I still want to retain these copies so that we can compare with what is n is equal to 6 and what is other one. Okay. Okay. So now we'll quickly check the time, right? I'm not generating recursion tree. I want to just compare them by time. So if I execute this, okay, what I'm getting here, memoization array is equal to -1. I am getting index out of range. Why I'm getting it index out of range? Maybe somewhere I'm passing a value greater than that. What line I have? I have it at line number 15. Oh. Why I'm getting it as index out of range? N is equal to -1. N is equal to -2. If I get it for 2, if I get it for 2, okay, so when n value is 2, I will be getting here n is equal to 0 and -1. Can you check what's fib is equal to line number 24 and is equal to 6? Okay, is it fine? Yes. Memoization area of n is equal to -1. If I enter here, there is no point in getting here. Okay, so let me see. Let me increase it by 2 just. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I've just increased it by 2, by 1, because I'm not sure whether I'm 0 index or 1 index. So I just added one temporary value. I've just kept it. Okay, so now if you look it for yes, for n is equal to 1, See, for n is equal to 1, I am not doing anything because I will be just returning the n value. Because since I'm not calling any recursion, I have left it out. But if you want to do that, you can instead of returning n, you can return memoization array of n here as well, and you have to initialize memoization array of 0 is equal to 0. That's what you have to do here if you want to return it 1. I'm just ignoring that case because there is no such any computation or recursive call stack here. This you could have done and you could have written that. I'm just ignoring that value here. So if I have this, now you can check here for Fibonacci of n is equal to 6, I am getting 0.006. Now let me try the other one. For 30, let me see how much time it's taking for 30. Still, it has gone out of that. Somewhere I think I am crossing the n limit. What I have done. So at line number 16, if memoization of n is equal to I'm getting memoization area of n is equal to -1. I'm index out of range. If I'm getting index, okay, let me debug this then for. Okay, so instead of I had applied a dirty trick there to solve that. Let us solve this. Let us not take a chance by doing that. Earlier I had got index out of range. Let me debug and see like what's exactly a problem here. That's also good practice for you to find what is wrong here. Okay, so I'm in a debug mode. Now I will, okay, n is equal to 6, right? And if I do okay, I have returned to the result here. Then n is equal to, okay, what had happened there? Initialize n is equal to 5. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I think, yeah. So I think Akash was quick to point out. See, what we were doing is we are calling n is equal to 6 here, right? But we are initializing it for n is equal to 5. Okay, so thanks for pointing out. It's not something here. This is what I don't want. Okay, but I still want this. So instead of calling n is equal to 6, let us call n is equal to n. So I'll pass here n is equal to n, and whatever the value for which I want to calculate, I'll do it here itself. So now it should be fine. Okay, I hope you got this. Where we are getting wrong. I hope you got this point. So here I was fixing the value n is equal to 5, and I was passing n is equal to 6 or 7 or 30. No matter what value I pass, it was always getting initialized for 5, whatever the earlier value which I said. Now it works fine. So instead of passing value here, let us pass the value at here, n is equal to 6. Okay, so now if you execute, you will get the value. So for 6, it is 0.6. So earlier I'll take it for 30. But see, earlier you took almost 4 seconds, right? For 30, it is 0.4. For 35, 0.5. What was the earlier difference? For 30, 0.4. 35, it used to take 4 seconds. See the difference between exponential and linear. So now you can even do it for 50. Earlier, when I did it for 50, it took almost a lot of time, more than a minute. So now let us see at what how much time. It takes 0.07. Okay. So now let us do it for n is equal to 6. Let us generate the recursion tree and let us compare the earlier recursion tree and now the recursion tree after memoization. So now if I execute for n is equal to 6, let it generate. Okay, it has generated this. So now if I check, this is for n is equal to 6, right, with the memoization. So n is equal to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then 0, then it will call n is equal to 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you can compare, you can see that, okay, so this is recursion tree for this. Let me keep this side by side so you will understand it. What's the difference between the earlier one? This is not, this is it. Okay, so this is earlier recursion tree and this is now. How do I get this? Okay. Okay, do you see the differences? Without memoization, with memoization. See the difference, how the difference is. So here you can see for n is equal to 2, it didn't generate any subtrees because I have already come with this value is taken from here. Look at n is equal to 4. The entire this subtree is now missing. So we have avoided all this computation, redundant computations. N is equal to 4. Are you getting? This is called as memoization. And for dynamic programming, for most of recursive approaches, we have to apply memoization so that the complexity of that recursive approach, which usually tends to become O of 2 to the power of n, in other words exponential complexity, that can be minimized drastically in a polynomial order. So this is O of exponential, this is O of linear. Okay, so I hope you can see the difference, how much drastic difference we have when I apply the concept of memoization. So what is memoization? This, it is memoization. So it is not memorization, that's how we pronounce it, is memoization. So here what we do, we store the previously computed values and use them instead of computing the values again. That's in short what we call it as memoization. Okay, this is what we exactly do. I hope now you understood by looking at the recursion tree, what exactly the difference, what is difference. You are able to find out the time-based difference as well as the difference in terms of the recursion tree as well. Okay, so now it's okay. So I'll just take a few more minutes. I think we will be done with that dynamic approach as well. Okay, before we move to our 0-1 knapsack, this is our 0-1 knapsack, right? This is the recursive 0-1 knapsack program. I want to apply memoization to it. Before I apply memoization to it, let me know if whatever we saw for this program is clear to you or not. So now, is the concept memoization clear to you as of now? If it is very clear, we will move to 0-1 knapsack and we will now try to memoize the 0-1 knapsack recursive approach. And that completes the solving 0-1 knapsack by using dynamic programming with memoization, and that approach will be called as top-down approach. Once you understand that approach, then we will move to bottom-up approach. Maybe we'll see bottom-up approach in tomorrow's lecture. But before I move to it, I just want a quick response from you. Have you understood this memoization? Or if you have any questions, you can reply here. I'll just wait for a few seconds, then we will move to 0-1 knapsack. Okay. So I have a question from Gurnath. What if we do not use keyword based arguments? See, if we do not use keyword based arguments, there is no difference. So nothing will the memoization still works. Why I am using keyword based arguments? Because I want to generate this recursion tree. I am using keyword based arguments because I want this recursion tree. The whatever the module which I am using, the GraphViz to get this recursion tree and all that. This one, I will not get this value if I do not use keyword based. Just to make sure that your understanding will be clear, I am generating this recursion trace. Okay, and I feel you should also go for this recursion trace. See, if you take pen and pencil, if you start tracing the recursion trace, it will take a lot of time. And in when we have this all these tools, I think we should spend time in using these tools more smartly to get the values. Okay, any other question? Understand that any recursion can be optimized by implementing an approach called as memoization. In a nutshell, memoization is nothing but avoid redundant calls to the same problem or same computation of same values. Once computed, store it somewhere, and whenever you want, retrieve it back. Clear? Shall we move with zero on knapsack? Zero on memoization for zero on knapsack recursive approach. Okay. So now let us move to zero on knapsack. Now, the trick to apply memoization is always in the recursion tree. You have to first explore the recursion tree, find out how the recursion tree is being generated, find out if some calls are being computed again and again. If they are computed again and again, store it in a table. That should be an approach. Remember, without looking at recursion tree, if you apply memoization, it might not be that intuitive or that might not be so clear. So before applying memoization, you have to analyze the recursion tree. Recursion tree means you have to analyze the trace the calls. If you find a scope for redundant computation of values or redundant recursive calls, then you can easily go for memoization. So if I want to go for memoization for this, I have to check, is there any redundant calls? So if I'm not wrong, I should have some values for it. Okay, this is, I think I have computed for last time, right? So this was the recursion tree last time we have computed for this. Now tell me, do you find something uh, redundant? Is there something which is being called for same set of arguments? See, when I say redundant, these arguments have to be same number of arguments, but multiple calls to that method. So, okay, tell me, can I call these two as redundant calls? I cannot call them redundant because see, capacity is 6, 2 and items, capacity is 6, 3. Change in argument means it's a different method. I need to find out a function calls where these values are exactly same. If I find, even if I can find one, I can apply an memoization. And sometimes for a smaller input, you might not find anything, but when this is larger one, you might find multiple such thing. Do you see it somewhere? Can you find anything? Capacity 4, index 3, any redundant call? Let me know. Let me know if you find it somewhere. So, do you want me to send this image to you so that you can find value for this? Let me do one thing. Uh, I will share it for you so that. How I want to share this URL with you. So you have to analyze that recursion, and I want you to analyze. Mm, okay. Okay. Check this image and tell me, do you find any redundant recursive call in that? If you find, then we'll go for memoization. The trick is to you to see that there is a redundant call in that. So I'll share only the window. For some value, you should find that. So if you find that, you have to tell me for what value of C, what value of index and items you find a redundant call. Okay, Chandrasekhar has a response capacity to index 4 and sub problem items. You're saying capacity 2, capacity 2, capacity 2, index 4, capacity 2, index 4. Capacity 2, index 4. Okay. Yes, you find capacity 2, index 4. So for capacity 2 and index 4, I am calculating that's the redundant call. Yes, for capacity 2 and index 4. You will see that I am calculating it again and again. Any other call? Yeah. So you can see that for capacity 2 and index 4, you are calculating redundant calls. So how do I minimize that now? Uh-huh. So, I think I need to open this. ठीक है. So if you see here, you can see for capacity 2, index 4, this call, and here you can see this call here. And if you go further, capacity 2, index 4. So you can see a redundant call. So every time wherever you see this redundant call, you can easily execute memoization. So instead of calling it twice, you can always repeat it by storing it somewhere in a dimensional array. So now tell me, what should be the size of array? Will it be one dimensional or will it be two dimensional? If I for this function, for Fibonacci, it was one dimensional, fine. So for when n is equal to 5 or 6, I only required n plus 1, a single dimensional array to store. But here, can you tell me what should be that additional structure? Will it be linear one dimensional, or will it be two dimensional or three dimensional or higher dimensional, or will it be something hybrid? So what value should I every time I should compare for? See, obviously, if I take capacity and index itself denotes the sub problem size. So every time if you look at the function call, this third argument is same, right? This is same, this is same, this is same, this is same, this is same. So in order to distinguish function calls uniquely, I need to only compare capacity and index. This decides if I'm calling the same function again or am I calling the new function again. So now if I check these two arguments, index and capacity, how many such combinations are possible for me? Only index and capacity. So that many number of possible function calls will be there. And for all possible function calls, I need to have a data structure where I can store the value of that call. So I need to only compare these two values, capacity and index. So can you tell me what should be the approach? Let me go back to your responses. Okay, so now I can see a response. Okay, the response I can see from Akash is that weight into size. Okay, weight into size, and that would be 2D. Your answer seems correct to me. So here I have a capacity and I have n number of items. So the capacity can take any value from 0 to 60, and that could be for any combination of the index, right? I hope you got this point. So at max, so whenever I pass this capacity to these elements, the capacity and index, the capacity can take any value from 0 to max. It can take any value from that, and index could be any value from 0 to n. So what will be the matrix size? It won't be linear, it will be two-dimensional, and it would be generally n into c. That's what we generally call here. If c is the max capacity of SAC, we call it as n. N is the size of the problem. So now here if I look at the problem, what is n? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4, so this will be, so this will be 4 into 60. These many number of values I need to have, or storage space I need to have, so that I can store it for any combination of index and to with the any value of capacity. So I need to create a two-dimensional array. Tell me, how do I create two-dimensional array in Python? Okay, so I need n into c. C is max capacity. Okay, so given this, can you tell me how do I create this two-dimensional array? In Python, how do I create two-dimensional arrays? See, I want n into c. So what will be row, what will be column? So here, when we want this structure, we make n, if it is a two-dimensional, obviously it would be in a row and column format. So what we make n as row. So row 1 indicates n is equal to 0, row 2 indicates n is equal to, I mean row 1, row 0 means n is equal to 0, row 1 means row n is equal to 1, and this column 1, column 0 indicates capacity is 0, column 1 indicates capacity 1, so on. So we make n as row, and so what we want, we need 2D array of n rows and c columns. That's what we need. So in Python, how do I get this n rows and c columns? If I want to create memoization array, what this memoization underscore is this memoization, let us call memoization table now. How do I do it? It should be obviously a two-dimensional, it should be a list. How do I create this? And by default, and as I said, since the only value is negative value, I can always create that. Akash has put some syntax here. Let me take the syntax of Akash and see, and let us see if you other people agree that what he says is, he says me to use this. He has entered 0, but I'm entering into C. Into C into N. Do you think this will give me N rows and C columns? Do you all agree? I want you to try. How do I create a matrix of N rows and C columns in Python? Do you think this will work? I think lists are done to you. Let me initialize this values. For example, if I say n is equal to 3 and I'll say c is equal to 4. So now if I execute this table and if I print this memoization table, okay, did it create for me? What was n? Did it create the intended structure? 3 rows, 4 columns. I hope you're getting this thing. So I want this list, outer list. Outer list is a row. How many rows I want? N rows. Inner one on columns. How many columns? C columns. So each C becomes one value within that. Column 1, column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. Likewise, 3 rows. Row 1, row 2, and row 3. I hope you understood this syntax. Clear? Understood? So I want this memoization table to be created for this. Okay, so in my program, what is n and what is c? Here it is n is equal to 60. memoization table is equal to outer row. First decide number of rows. How many rows I want? N. What is N? What is N here? Length of items. This is my N, right? And internal, each column will value will be -1. How many columns I want? In my case, I'm denoting M is equal to 60. Right. So here it is M is equal to 60 with nothing but C. And here I'll get N. And what I want? A 2D array of N rows and M C columns. So C means in my case it is also M, the max capacity. That's what I'm getting. Take it to order. Memoization table. So now if I have a memoization table, I need to just put this inside my code. So can you tell me where should I do? Generally, whatever you're doing it here, recursive calls, this has to be included here. So ignore the base cases. Here I don't want to take any no computation, so I'm ignoring. So if I ignore that, this is what you should do. What the first thing? If memoization table of what I'm passing here, if memoization table of what is row and what is column here, memoization row I need to take. So here I'm passing capacity and index. So how I'm creating it is n capacity into index. If I create array of n into capacity, here I'm creating n into capacity. So here I'm getting capacity and index. So you have to pass capacity is my columns, index is n. So I need to pass if table of index and if table of capacity, if it is equal to if it is not equal to -1 means there is some value in that. There is with some value stored in that. If not memoization table equal to -1, what should I do? I should directly return value of this. Right. This is what I want to return the value of this. If it is not, it means it is not -1. I need to call that. So if I want to call, then I'll have a else block, and inside else block, I'll have all this. Okay. So inside this, you will check this, calculate all this, calculate the values, and as I told, we will take something called as return value is equal to, this is what I was returning, right? Every time I was returning this. And store this return value in this array. What's the array? Memoization table index capacity is equal to return value and return the return value. So next time if I get a call for the same call again, if I get this call for same call again, then instead of calling recursion stack, I'll be calling this value. Okay. So to verify this, let me put some small print statement here. What I want to print, I want to print the capacitor index, right? Print capacity plus str of capacity plus index plus str of. I'm just printing it. So the moment I detect duplicate call, I'm printing it. And if I'm not wrong, for this recursion call, as you have said, for capacity 4 index 3, I'm getting redundant call. So I should get this value for this. Let me execute. Okay, I'm executing the same previous program. Save the value. It is no, 0 and knapsack. List out of range. Okay, so maybe I'm wrongly getting this value, but let me debug it for you to better understand. So it's always better to understand. See, I'm getting exception at this line. So somewhere I'm wrongly accessing them, right? So put a debug point here and run the debug, you'll understand that value. Okay, so it stopped at that point. Press F7. So you will get that value. Okay, repeat it. I think I am doing it in reverse way. So this is it. Okay, now what is index? Index is 0. Capacity is 60. Okay, you can tell me where we went wrong. Can you tell me where we went wrong? It is 60, and if I'm creating array of 60, will it work? Arrays are always 0th indexed, right? So it is C plus 1 and C plus 1. Stop debugging and go back to this. And to be very always careful, let us always add plus 1, because we don't want to get into that confusion of 0 index, 1 index. Always do 1 and plus, because space is not a good problem right now. Do it and execute it. I think what is wrong? Can only concatenate list. Length of, not this, plus 1. Yes. Let me put this in bracket to be safe. Calculate everything and put this into this one. Okay, I think if 200 is the right answer, and if I'm not wrong, it's okay. Okay, I think I have not got this print statement. Memoization off. Maybe I think this is not the program for which we saw the recursion tree. Right, I think this is not the recursion tree which we solved. Maybe I think for this problem we solved it. The recursion tree we observed was for this. M is equal to 7 and items is equal to 7. This was the input for which we looked at, right? Okay, now you can see that for capacity 4 and index 3. Do you see? I think you have given the same answer here. Yeah, so Gurnath has given the same answer. Capacity 4 and index 3. So for that we get a redundant values. For this problem, I'm talking about this problem. So you can also generate recursion tree for this, and you can even check what exactly is the recursion tree for that. Capacity 4. So let me show you how I am ensuring that. Okay, so if I open my earlier recursion tree which I have, see, this is the recursion tree we were looking at. So for what it has printed, for capacity 4 and index 3, this is a sub problem which is why I'm solving this. Capacity 4 index 3, we have redundant calls. You can see once again here, this is where you see further here, capacity 4 and index 3. Let me show you. I'm not sure if you can. Open with this. Okay, so here if you look here, so this is what I was asking. Capacity 4 index 3, here I have this value, and once again if you further go, here you have you again have capacity 4 and index 3. These are two double calls which I was able to. I think now you can check somewhere. Do you see this call and this call? Now you might ask me, why it didn't give it for capacity 2 and this. For example, we have already identified for this, right? What was that other one which you identified? Capacity 2 index 4. I think you have also identified this, right? Capacity 2 and index 4. Where is the other one? Okay, here you have one more call. Can you tell me why I didn't get this value for this two one? I get value for the other, but for this two I didn't get the call for that. Can you tell me why? Why I didn't get it for capacity 2 and index 4, but I got output for, yeah. So we do not reach that step, because if index is equal to 4, I enter this block. Here I do not do that. I directly return a value, no recursion at all. So I've just ignored that. I hope you understood why I didn't get capacity 2 and index 4, because if index is 4, if index is equal to n, if it is n, I'm doing nothing here. I'm just returning n. So no need to go into this. So here is what I go for memoization. This will be, yes, here, and I'll write once here. Memoize p recursion calls. So here I am applying this memoization concept. Okay. So once again, I have occupied your entire 2 hours, but I think it was required. Okay. So have you understood? So now whatever program which you are looking at, this is an actual solution for 01 knapsack with memoization. So now what will be complexity of this approach? Earlier without memoization it is O of n. So without, so if you say without memoization, the complexity was, what was the complexity? O of exponential. But with memoization, what will be complexity? Can you guess with memoization? Will it be n square? Okay, you might think it might look like it is n square, or it might once again look as n into c. See, if you look to this program, if the program is too heavy, the most values you compute, you will only compute values for this table, right? Whatever the values you compute for this table, that itself gives you a solution for that. So at the worst, you will end up computing values for this entire table. And how many values I'll be computing for this entire table? If I consider value of computing a value for one cell of this table is constant, approximately constant, you will be computing almost n into c, right? So the complexity I can say is, instead of saying n square, you are saying n into n. But remember, I'm not doing n into n. I'm doing n into c computations. So the complexity would be, we will not write n square, but we will retain c as it is, where c is max capacity and n is inputs. So most often the complexity of zero and knapsack is always written in form of n into c. This is the most optimized thing we can have. I cannot further optimize this approach. If you can approach that becomes a research problem, it's actually an NP class of problem. So we can't further. There might be some research based algorithms, but we will only focus to this. Okay, have you understood this approach? I think whatever the approach which we saw might be very complex. We started with FIBO, we understood what is memoization, how the memoization helps to avoid multiple recursive calls. Yes. Then we applied it for same for zero and knapsack. And why do I call it as top-down approach? I call it as top-down approach because, why I call it as top-down approach? I call it as top-down because we always start computing this recursion tree from top to bottom. That's how we start attempting to do solving this problem. That's why we call it as top-down approach. There is one more approach to solve this zero and knapsack, wherein instead of starting from this top-down, we will not even go for recursion. We will directly start computing values from bottom and we will reach to the top. At that time, we will use this table which we have computed. What are the table which we have computed? This table, we will start initializing this table without using recursion. So we will learn that concept in tomorrow's lecture, wherein that's slightly better than this version, because it will not include recursion, and it does the same computation without recursion. So you will always save the time which is spent in maintaining recursion stack, call stack, returning from recursion. So all that is avoided, and that's called as bottom up approach. Whatever approach which we saw today, this is called as top down approach, which is nothing but it's a recursive approach with memoization. Remember, only with memoization you can claim that you have a O of n into c order of complexity zero and knapsack. If you call what is the order of this complexity, I'll call it as polynomial, some kind of polynomial, but not exponential. Okay. Yeah. So now I will upload this new version of program. I'll also share the recursion trees, whatever I have done with FIBO and all that. Just go through that, and you can repeat on your own. You can try to solve this on your own. And once we are done with bottom up approach, we will solve some hard category of problems from HackerEarth and HackerRank or on LeetCode, which are based on knapsack approach, dynamic programming of knapsack approach. So that time you will understand how easy the problem is. As long as you do not understand concept, it seems like a very difficult problem. But once you understand this, it's fairly a very easy version of that problem. Okay. So almost I think it's 10:32. So okay. Uh, can you give me a feedback? Have you understood whatever we saw today? Because tomorrow we're going to start with bottom up approach.
Yeah. Okay. So Shreyans is 50%. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll share the recording. Go through the recording in detail. If you don't understand something, you can just pause the video, note the timestamp, and we can discuss this in your Telegram group. We'll discuss this in Telegram group, whatever if you have not understood. But make sure today I'll immediately upload this video on YouTube. I'll share this today's recording and go through in detail. Okay, and others I think you have understood. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. See, the best way to practice is to solve whatever I have done without watch the video entirely, understand the concept, and sit on machine, type the code again. Don't look at the video or program. You might go wrong. That's fine. Do 10 times, 10 times. This is the foundation of dynamic programming. You expertise this, get a skill in this, you will get everything. Okay. So fine. I think I am done with this lecture. We are good to end this lecture. Let us meet tomorrow.